Lunar Iuno will banish her enemies to cruel fates, and today I'm here to tell you how to build her best. My name is Juice, and let's get into it. So what echoes does this elegant priestess of fate desire? None other than 3-piece Crown of Valor. This is easily going to be Iuno's best in slot set, because Iuno is able to provide herself with a shield, meaning that she's able to benefit from the attack percent and crit percent that this set offers. Not to mention the fact that her personal damage is indeed high enough to justify using a set like this. As for the 2-piece that you can pair for it, you would most likely want to go for arrow percent. 2-piece attack percent works as well. Otherwise, you can also consider using Sierra Gale. If you don't already have a crown set prepared for her, it's able to give her some arrow damage bonus, and that's quite nice considering that she does good personal damage. There's not really much more to it, considering that it's a very simple 5-piece set, but it is indeed a good option on her, and you can also consider using 5-piece Moonlit Clouds if you're supporting an attack scaling DPS, and as of now, all of Iuno's main synergies are attack scaling. This isn't really worth doing in my opinion, especially if you have her signature weapon, because her damage is actually quite good, and this ends up sacrificing a lot of that. However, it does indeed boost the attack of your next incoming teammate. It's fine, it's not exactly what I would recommend, but it's going to work just fine. As for Iuno's main stats, simple. Go for 4 cost crit percent, 3 cost arrow percent, 3 cost arrow percent, 1 cost attack percent, and 1 cost attack percent. You can indeed, as always with these type of scaling DPSs, go for arrow attack or double attack if you need to wait until you're able to get double arrow. But of course, going double elemental is the standard and of course best build for your Iuno. As for her stat goals, simple. On her signature, go for 85 to 270 crit rate and damage, 2100 attack, and 105% ER. You can go for a little bit more if you feel like you're not getting your ult frequently enough. And on Abyss Surges, go for 75 to 230% crit rate and damage, 2400 attack, and 105% ER. Once again, you can go for a little bit more energy if you feel like your rotations are not smooth enough. However, 105 should be enough. You can viably push that to 110 if you feel you need that. In terms of her damaging sets, to be honest, they're all quite good on her, and just go for what you have the best stats on. However, I would recommend farming a good 3-piece crown set for her. It's definitely an improvement over Sierra Gale, and because it's a 3-piece 2-piece, and Arrow is actually her best 2-piece, you're still able to use your best Sierra Gale pieces on her. Use the best 2 of those, and then go and get 3 new crown pieces. Then you're basically sorted. This fine priestess is gonna need the right tools for her future telling. So, what'll those be? Moongazer Sigil is easily going to be her best in slot weapon option. It's not even close. Not only does it provide her with a crud ton of Resonance Liberation damage bonus, but it also gives her some nice attack percent. Not to mention, literal Death Ignore. This is easily the best for her personal damage, which might I remind you, is quite high and is indeed quite significant across most of her teams. So a very good signature weapon for her. Verity's Handle ends up being her second best in slot 5-star weapon option, because it also can provide her with plenty of Resonance Liberation damage bonus, not to mention some nice attribute damage bonus. All things considered, a very good gauntlets option for her. Use it if you have it. Other 5-star gauntlets such as Tragic Comedy and Blazing Justice are able to work just fine too, even if their passives aren't as well tuned to Iuno's kit. In terms of free-to-play friendly 5-star weapon options, you're gonna go for Abyss Surges. It completely sorts out your energy issues right off the bat, and it also provides you with a nice number of attack. However, the rest of the passive isn't really that big of a deal for her, considering that she mostly deals in Resonance Liberation damage. Otherwise, the recently added Battle Pass weapon Aether Strike actually ends up being very good for her, because as you guessed, it provides her with one thing that she likes a lot: Resonance Liberation damage bonus and attack percent. Although this is indeed good for her, it doesn't outperform any of her 5-star gauntlet options, so just go for whatever pair of 5-star gauntlets you have if you have them. Now, if you have it at R5, then it is actually better than R1 Abyss Surges. However, that is 5 BP's worth of this weapon, and nobody has that as of now. So generally not worth it. Just use Abyss Surges instead. Otherwise, Stoneheart actually ends up being a little bit better than Aether Strike. It also provides her Resonance Liberation damage bonus, with the main difference being that it provides crit rate as opposed to crit damage. If you're gonna pick up a Battle Pass weapon for her, then make it Stoneheart. Who's going to be joining the priestess when it comes to reading fate? Well, Augusta is obviously going to be her absolute best in slot synergy, without question. Iuno has an interesting ability in which whenever a shield is procced very frequently, she's able to provide damage amplification. Up to 40% in fact. This applies to both Iuno and Augusta, so she obviously ends up being her best in slot by default. Not to mention that her outro skill is able to provide plenty of heavy attack damage bonus. Definitely Augusta's premium teammate. Then there is also Gion. She's good for him for 2 reasons. Reason number 1 is that she's able to provide him with heavy attack damage bonus on outro. Reason number 2 is that his own hypercarry damage isn't really all that outstanding nowadays. So having a character like a Iuno who's able to do plenty of good personal damage actually really helps his overall team performance. His own damage gets benefited, and of course Iuno makes some very meaningful contributions, making for quite the powerful synergy. This actually ends up being one of Gion's best. Fantastic for sure. Absolution Phoebe is also able to benefit from a Iuno, because a large portion of her damage output comes from heavy attacks, and we all know what a Iuno buffs by this point. This ends up making them a very strong synergy with one another, and because Phoebe's own personal damage is honestly quite high, having that buffed up does a lot. She's also able to work with Zani for a similar reason, however, it's more smooth with free-to-play Zani, because free-to-play Zani generally uses Spectra Rover as her third slot teammate. It's not going to be as strong as using Zani with the Acolyte, however, it is indeed another team option that you can consider. You can also consider playing Iuno as her own main DPS. There are 2 characters that you would primarily want to do this with. Character number 1 is Shikona. This is because Iuno is an arrow character, and the Shikona Arrover core goes really hard for arrow DPSs, of any variety. It makes sense to me why Kuro is running these 2 together. They end up pairing very nicely with one another, and they suit basically all scenarios. Option number 2 is Yinlin. This is because she provides Resonance Liberation damage bonus with her outro skill. Example teams include Augusta, Iuno, Shorekeeper, Gion, Iuno, Shorekeeper, Phoebe, the non-existent one, Spectra Rover, Zani, the Teller of Fate, Spectra Rover once again, the Priestess, Shikona, Air Rover, the blue-haired lass, Yinlin, and then a healer. You get the idea. Yet how do you play Iuno? Well, intro in, alt, jump, basic 3 times, skill twice, and use her heavy attack. Outro. Use her echo basically anytime during the rotation. In this situation, I use it at the end. Note, you only use the heavy attack if you're playing her with Augusta, or if you're a Iuno's S6. Otherwise, you just outro out. As for a Iuno's Forte Priority, go for this. Her Forte circuit is where the main meat of her kit lies, so definitely level it up first. Like, seriously level it up first. And then you want to go for her ultimate. Those 2 abilities make up the core of her kit, so that's where basically all of your resources have to go first. And when I say first, I mean you literally max them out first before you even bother with the other ones. You can indeed go and level up her skill in intro too, but there is literally no reason to level up her basics. Just ignore them if I were you. However, leveling up her skill a little bit is fine, and the intro, I'd say that you can generally ignore it, but once again, you can level it up if you so choose, but generally, make sure you put a ton of stock into that Forte and into that ult. That's where the good stuff is. Do you want to get sequences on a character that doesn't exist? Well then let's talk sequences. Her S1 is honestly pretty good. Unfortunately, it doesn't really do much for her supportive capabilities, but it does help out her personal damage. It gives her an entire Shorekeeper S2, and if you're uninitiated as to what that does, that provides you 40% attack whenever you're within her Stellar Realm. So, in a Iuno's case, she literally gets 40% attack just from her S1, which is really solid. Good if you care about a Iuno's own damage. S2 is where the enhancement to your supportive capabilities lie. She's able to provide even more damage amplification to everybody that's in the team, and this isn't barred by shields or any specific mechanic of any variety. No, this applies to literally everyone. Very nice S2, very strong, and this will definitely make her the de facto best heavy attack buffer on your account. S3 mostly does more for her personal damage, and just turns her into more and more of a powerful sub-DPS. It's good to get this if you care about her personal damage, but honestly, there is no reason to go out of your way to get this. It's nice if you're on the path to some of the higher sequences. Very good though. Her S4 isn't anything too nuts on its own, because it provides a shield to everybody in the team. If you're fine at dodging, then gameplay-wise it's not really going to do a lot for you, but at least everybody's going to be able to have a slice of her damage amplification. Her S5 is extremely straightforward. It just boosts the power of her Resonance Liberation. Really not much else to add here. It's nice because it buffs her entire damage profile. Her S6 simply seriously jacks up her damage numbers and makes her absurdly powerful, like to a ridiculous extent. Obviously a good S6, especially if you intend to main her. Very good, but obviously you don't really need this, and to be honest, you don't have to get this S6 if you want to play her as a main DPS. S1's a nice enough damage increase, but honestly, S0 R1 is more than enough to play her as a main DPS. Iuno's definitely more on the niche side, but I do think that she has a pretty solid place in the meta right now. She has multiple different characters that she can work with, she can be an independent DPS, and all things considered, I think she is a decently designed unit. The only thing that's a bit of a shame is that I feel like her damage amplification at S0 that you get through shields is just a bit too niche. We don't really have enough characters in the game right now that utilize shields in order for that to not feel like a mechanic that was just made for the sake of Augusta. But that aside, I think she's pretty solid all things considered. Decent unit. How about yourself? Are you enjoying your Iuno? Let me know down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Hopefully this video was able to get your Iuno banishing their enemies out of existence. This has been Juice, signing out, and wait, out of existence? Huh. Does a Iuno even exist?